Is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation, and I need to apologize to everybody that I have not been able to reply to any of these comments lately. I'm about 50 comments behind on this channel and probably 200 to 300 comments behind on my cooking channel. So, man, sometimes you get so far behind that it's almost a little scary to go back in and reply to those comments, but I will get to that. Promise, whether it's me answering those comments in a separate video or just replying to them individually. But I do apologize for that. This team driving has been taking a little bit out of me, let me tell you. So definitely a difference between team driving and driving solo, but we'll get into that in a separate video, which I'm gonna be doing here soon. But recently I had a chance to take a look at the accident report on the accident that I got into a while back in St. Louis, my favorite city to drive through. I hate that city, I don't know why, but that's where my people are from, but I just do not like that city. But anyway, the reason I haven't brought that accident up was because I wasn't sure if they were going to try to lie about anything that happened in that accident, but looking at the police report, they kind of came clean on it, so figured it would be time to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about it for a couple different reasons, but well, here's why I want to talk about it. First of all, that accident, in a weird way, made me feel a little bit safer about driving, knowing that somebody could hit me that hard and me not really even feel it. Two, kind of what lane you should listen. I'm no expert, but what lane you need to be driving in, and I was driving in the lane I preferred to drive in before I had to merge over. I had a exit coming up in about a mile ahead, so I got over into the far lane, which kind of, I never like driving in that far right lane when there's a lot of traffic merging, but I had to get over in order to meet my obligations for the next exit. So that's another reason why I wanted to bring it up. And then just to let people kind of know what the reality is of kind of driving out here. The fact that I got hit by a Nissan Altima is one thing. It could have been, I doubt it would have been another semi truck, but it could have been a bigger truck, or it could have hit me in my steer tires. I was maybe, they hit me back by my fuel tank, so if they would have kind of, things would have been a little bit different. They could have hit me in my steers, and it could have been a different situation. So anyway, here's kind of what happened, all right? So I'm chilling, minding my business, sort of like Salt and Pepper back in the day. But as always, I do not ride that right lane if I'm in an area where there's heavy merge traffic. I like to stay in that second lane over, which is where I was for the majority of time going through this kind of densely populated area. But I'm on I-70. I need to get over and merge onto another highway, so I get in the right lane, and I'm rolling for about a mile, and I'm maybe about a quarter mile, maybe a little bit more than a quarter mile away from my off ramp, and I hear something, and I really don't know what it is, but I know it's coming from the right hand side of my truck. So I hear something, I look over, and there's a car that hit me, and next thing I know, this car bounces off of me, hits my fuel tank, dents that up, hits my APU, busts up my fairings on the side of the truck, bounces off my truck. Now, there's a grass area off to the side, there's a fence, and then there's a neighborhood back behind that. So this car hits my fuel tank area, all that, bounces off that, goes through the fence, goes up the grass area, still going forward at a good pace of speed, because this guy was probably coming down the exit faster than he should have. There's a little street area with some cars on that side, went through that shit, hit a car, still going forward, and was almost coming down the next down ramp back on the highway. So by the time I pulled over, I see a car back behind me with the hood up, and I'm thinking that has to be a separate accident, because we're almost, by the time I stopped, I'm almost at the next, ramp, and that's where this car was. So I'm wondering where this car went. So I'm a little flustered at the time, but I called 911, police, all that kind of stuff. Go back there, put my triangles out, and then I was a little pissed off. So I was kind of, I really don't know what I was gonna do, but I was gonna walk back and kind of get the information from the driver, all that kind of stuff. And as I'm walking back, which is probably about a quarter mile behind me, walking back to take pictures of the wreck and all this kind of stuff, I'm still not clear if this is the car or not. But as I'm walking up, if you're familiar with St. Louis, there's like these row houses that are on the side of the highway, and this neighborhood cleared out like it was training day. Remember when Macy Gray was like calling her boys to come and get Denzel? That's what was happening in this neighborhood. So I was like, you know what? Let me just turn back around and wait for the police, all that kind of stuff. So I'm in the truck waiting for the police, and this petite female police officer comes up. I didn't even see her because she was so short. She comes and steps up on, my passenger side of the truck. Scares the shit out of me. And at the time I was thinking, what makes these people so comfortable that they're just hopping up on my shit like that? That was the first thing that went through my mind. Then the second thing that went through my mind is, boy, this lady's she had to be young, like mid-20s, maybe at best. And she chose the wrong city to be a police officer, being that small and fragile looking. But anyway, those are the first things that went through my mind. So comes up, asked me for my information, give it to her. She asked me what happened. I told her. And around this time, the ambulances, actually a little bit before this, the ambulances had came up, but I didn't want to go back up there because, like I said, now there's a crowd out there, and I didn't know how they were going to react to things, so I just stayed in the truck. And so I'm asking the police officer, is that the car that hit me? And she's like, yeah, she's the one that told me that they'd hit bounced out of my truck and went up the hill and went in the neighborhood, hit another car up there, and anyway, kind of stopped as they were about to come down the next on-ramp. So anyway, that was the deal. So what I was worried about was, I have this dash cam that I haven't hooked up in my truck yet, and I left it at home. Actually, I was going to bring it out on this last run, but I didn't have a dash cam. And so I was kind of worried about, what these guys were going to say about the incident, all this kind of stuff. And when I looked at the accident report, what they said, while it might be a lie, absolved me from any guilt. So what they basically said was they were coming on the on-ramp, and then their steering wheel started shaking. They lost control of the vehicle, and then that's when they hit me. And as soon as they declined medical coverage or medical treatment, I knew they didn't have insurance. And one thing that I do have an issue with Prime about is they don't know if I was hurt in this accident or not. But one thing that I do know for sure is they sent out that deductible email within 30 minutes of me leaving that scene. And to me, that seemed a little bit too early to be sending that out, not knowing what condition I was in mentally, physically, any of that kind of stuff, but reminding me of my $1,000 obligation. And I knew I was going to end up paying all that $1,000 because, first of all, I'm not trying to hate on you guys from St. Louis. I'm just looking at the statistics. St. Louis drivers are not the most insured drivers in the nation. Let's put it at that. And judging by the car and things of that nature, I knew I was going to be swallowing all 1,000 of those dollars, and I did swallow all 1,000 of those dollars because they didn't have insurance. So anyway, that was kind of the deal on that. But like I said, here's kind of what I learned from that, is that in order for somebody to do some real damage to your truck, they're going to have to hit it pretty hard, because I think this car was probably driving at about 60 miles an hour when they hit me. I didn't even feel it. So it did kind of make me feel a little bit better about the stability of these trucks in situations like that. Like I said, it could have hit me in my steer tire and it could have been a different situation, or it would have been luckier if they would have just hit the trailer and not my truck, and we would have been talking a little bit less out of my pocket on that. So again, for all you rookie drivers out there, drive however makes you feel comfortable. One thing that I've learned, and like I said, I'm no super trucker, I'm none of that, but if you're driving through densely populated areas where there's a lot of merging, get over into that next lane over, so you're not having to always compensate for people getting on the highway, things like that. So like I said, I had no option in this unless I wanted to cut people off down the road, but it reaffirmed my belief that second lane over is the best lane to drive in when you're going through those areas. And as much as I was hating on Prime about sending out that $1,000 deductible, they got that work done super fast. Really no questions asked, no paperwork, nothing like that to go through. You just get it in there, they fix it, and you roll on. So the $1,000, if I'd have been in my own car, my deductible is not $1,000, so I guess it wouldn't be. They did a lot of damage to the truck, and for me to only have to come up with $1,000, I don't know if we have any uninsured insurance policies or anything like that, but maybe I need to look into something like that. But anyway, that's what's going on. I have a couple more ideas for some videos coming up, but my truck I got my truck VIN number for the truck I ordered, so that's coming in. I do want to talk about this team situation, things like that, because a few people have asked about that. And I got a lot, I have people that email me their phone number. I was just talking to I'm gonna have to look at his. Anyway, I was talking to a guy earlier. If you're watching this, you know who I'm talking about, but a police officer, lives in Atlanta, he's 53 years old, wants to get into trucking possibly, and was asking a few questions. So I want to kind of talk about the advantages and disadvantages of getting into trucking when you're a little bit long in the tooth, So that's another video idea. And then but I'm not sure. I mean, this teaming has been really taking its toll. I want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages to team driving in a video as well. So those are things I have coming up. I do appreciate you guys stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.